Welcome. There we go. Good stuff. So, slowing down. The rain has just started pounding the house, so I hope that you can hear me all right. Good stuff. So, we're going to take ourselves quite low to the floor, and I'm going to pop this to one side. It's actually my blanket that I've rolled up. We're going to use that under the shoulder blades. I don't know if we've done that together before, but essentially we're going to pop the little bolster under the knees. If you haven't got a bolster, you can roll a pillow under the knees. And then we're not coming all the way down just yet. We are low to the floor, but we're going to just take the feet so that they are hip width apart. Adjust the buttock flesh out and back. So there's a natural little tip forward, and we're just going to rest. Okay, so we'll come back to this a number of times, but we'll just in the first instance take ourselves into this upright position. So the heels are planted, feet can be just relaxed, and we're just going to notice what's happening through the spine. Okay, so nice tall spine. Next, we bring the attention to the hands. We're going to draw the hands down by the buttocks, by the hips, and then gently draw them back. Now, we're stretching into the palms and lifting up the chest. We're just going to pause here. Now, this can be, again, as active or passive as you need. So we can really press into the floor, lift the chest, look up. But as it's our first little movement, we're just going to use the hands here for support. Now, if having the fingers pointing down towards the heels is uncomfortable, if it's super strong on the wrist, then you're welcome to turn the palms so the fingers are away. It won't be as dynamic. There'll be a different stretch, and all are valid, obviously. So pad through the hands a number of times if you find this useful. So we're opening up those little pathways, pressing the palms to the floor. So the buttocks are resting, legs are resting. So heels are in touch with the floor, little support under the backs of the knees, and then just settle. Okay, so nice deep breaths. We're lifting up through the spine, eyes soft, jaw soft. And just taking some deep breaths. So, you know, there are lots of instructions there. You may want a little bend in the elbows. You may find this is incredibly tight across the chest or the middle back. So we're settling, you know, just observing, starting with that observation. This is what we're looking for, these tiny little opportunities, little moments where we can pause and observe in our practice. Certainly this evening, but in any time that you're practicing, that's always the invitation, really, just to settle. And it's quite passive, if you like, quite restful without doing very much at all. This slowing down of the movements, the body is settling. You may start to feel that deepening stretch into the inner groins and the thighs. Let the belly soften and continue to lift up through the chest. So we're talking a little bit about winter at the start of the class, and one of the things I find is that I want to be a little bit more rounded in the shoulders, and I end up getting more and more curve through the spine. So anytime we can start to open across the chest and create some space around the heart center, freeze up that breath, and you can take a nice deep breath and just release that breath and see how that feels in the body, just to notice that there is that little bit more length through the spine when we're not collapsing over the diaphragm. If you get super tired and you want to rest, of course you can release the hands and gently lean forward to rest across the legs. We will come to that, which is a lovely stretch, and it's just another one of those gentle folds that you can really surrender into. So the only other thing to mention here is obviously different arm lengths. So if yours are bent, that's fine. You can still manage to lift the chest. It all depends on the arm length to the torso. So you may want to walk the hands a little further back. As you start to settle, you'll notice there is a little bit more space and freedom in the in the skeleton, if you like, in the muscles, in the whole of the makeup of the body, when there's just a little bit more space, a little bit more release. Well done. So let's release the arms. I'm hoping that felt more restful than intense. It can feel a little intense depending how tight you are in the shoulders. We're going to bring the hands forward and then just gently start to rest forward. Now, depending on how this feels across the belly, you may want to add an extra blanket here, a little bit of padding, another cushion, or you may want to stay quite upright and keep the spine nice and long. You may wish to hold on to the toes, so sometimes it's nice to flex the feet and take a hold of the big toes with the peace fingers, okay? Or you can just simply be soft, let the hands rest. And we're just softening through the spine, just opening up through the spine. Just staying with that lovely breath. And almost visualizing each rib, each of the intercostal muscles releasing, the shoulders releasing, the arms softening, and the hips and pelvis just melting into the ground. So a real sense of grounding, of becoming quiet, of becoming peaceful. So if you're holding onto the toes, just gently release those and point the toes away to stretch to the very tops of the feet, as if you're aiming to get the soles of the feet flat towards the floor. They may reach, they may not. And then sitting up nice and tall, lifting the chest. This time you can keep the hands just resting on the shins or the knees. A nice deep breath in. We're going to let the hands come up, sort of zombie style, and then gently turn to face each other if you're sideways on, or turn to the left, whichever's good for you. So you can leave your blanket there. Sometimes it's nice to add a little bit of weight on the body, just to sort of keep you feeling quite grounded. And then we're gently twisting. Okay, so legs are relaxed. Beautiful, nice deep breaths. You can stay up on the fingertips. And feel that this twist is coming through the spine. Okay, so there's not much really happening down in the lower belly as such. This is lift and lift and lift through the spine. It's very subtle. We're just again getting up into that thoracic spine, the middle of the spine and the upper back. If you're on your fingertips, you may want to extend that arm and bring a little softness to this front shoulder. See if you can soften into the back shoulder. Well done. Come all the way around, resting in the center again. Just let the hands just rest on the legs. Spine is long. This time just bringing attention to the head as an extension of the spine. Crown of the head lifts up. And just see if you can drop the length of the spine right the way down to the pelvic floor, where we're going to pick everything up and start to become a little bit more aware of that connection up through the whole of the spine. Lift the hands and then turn to the other side. Deep breaths. Notice if you're holding on to that breath. It's very tempting. Just go as far as is comfortable. Remember, there is no prize for the deeper twist, or, not in competition with yourself or anyone else. And again, you may want to stay on your fingertips, or you may want to soften into that shoulder. Just exploring the holding of that shoulder. Wonderful. Let's release that back arm. Come all the way forward. We're going to remove our little props and pop your bolster to one side. We'll come back to that. And you may like to take your blanket, folded blanket at the back of your head. I'm going to come down. This will feel super spacious through those hip flexors. So if you're feeling it really tightly in the inner groins and the hip flexors, it's like a build-up of energy. Okay, so we're going to come to that first position, just like we did, but perhaps soles of the feet planted, a little bit more acute on the fold of the knees. Shift the pelvis by lifting the pelvis towards the heels, and then come down nice and slowly. Now use your hands for support. Take yourself down to your elbows and gently look upon the belly. Okay, so we're just up on the elbows. Nice deep breaths. Well done. And gazing towards the navel, eyes soft, jaw soft. And come down if you need to, okay? Well, we're watching for that sort of picking up of the pelvic floor. A little tone around the belly. A little length around the sacrum. Across the back of the pelvis. Nice deep breath in. And then as we exhale, we can release each arm, come all the way down, lower yourself nice and gently. Adjust yourself if you need. We're going to roll gently to one side and then the next. So just using your legs. I also sometimes like to use my elbows into the floor for a little bit of stability and just gently easing into the hips and the pelvis. And this is very intuitive. Just trust your own body. We're not looking for full extension here or reaching a certain place, but just opening across the back of that pelvis, nice, gentle stretches. So you can extend the arms when you feel the shoulders have released. You may want to extend them out wide, palms facing up. And then keeping it nice and soft, rolling across the back of the pelvis. Start to lengthen a little bit of the tummy skin, okay? So across the abdominal muscles, so be very gentle here. This may be again quite passive. You may want to just rest on one side or keep it moving as you open across the hips and pelvis, releasing into those, into the groin, essentially, into the adductors, connective tissue around the hips and pelvis. And then when you're ready, you settle in the middle. Leave the knees pointing up towards the sky. And just settle. So, you know, sometimes we come and we start just lying down, but if we start with a little bit of movement, we can really appreciate that stillness when we get to the floor. We can really appreciate what it is to rest, to forego that movement and to just be in the posture. To just be in the stillness. And to just bear witness to whatever energies are shifting through the body. So we may notice things that we haven't noticed all day. There may be a little urge to move, or perhaps a gratitude for being still if it's been a very busy day. So if the shoulders and the arms are comfortable, you may leave them just as they are. You may want to bring a little bend to the elbows. That feels good in your body. Make any movement that you need to find that space in the shoulders and across the chest. So again, this openness, this sense of breathing deep across the upper chest, deep into the lungs. And we're going to extend the right leg and gently bend and release that left leg. So the knee's going to pop out to the side, the left foot can rest against the thigh. Flex up the foot of that right leg. So it's almost like a tree pose, but in reclined position. Just take some deep breaths here. If you find that too intense, if it's too much of a stretch across the belly, or it's too intense across the inner groin, you can of course take a little bit of support under that thigh, or you can keep that leg bent and just rest the feet towards each other. Nice deep breaths. If you're finding that it's dropping in temperature, you're feeling chilly, grab an extra layer, pop your socks on, that's fine. So just have a little internal gaze at what's happening across the forehead. Is there anything that could be dropped between the eyebrows, across the cheeks? A little softening around the jaw or the tongue. I'm going to gently turn the head to the right. And then coming back to centre, nice and slowly. Let's take a deep breath in. Well done. Let's release that leg. You can extend both the legs. You can have a little movement with the arms extending, legs extending. Nice big yawn if one comes. Allow that stretch to go through the whole of the body before we gently bend up both of the legs. Come back to that little movement through the hips and the pelvis. So essentially creating opportunities to just release through the pelvis, through the inner groins, and then settling there in the centre, releasing that left leg as a full extension, and then dropping that right leg out to the side. So the right foot just sits somewhere against the supporting leg, as if you were in tree pose, is the best way I can describe it. And then the adjustment through the arms. You can flex the toes of that outstretched leg. It's a really nice way to get into the plantar fascia of the foot and up through the back of the leg. Again, just softening the muscles of the face. And this time, gently turning the head to the left. And just softly releasing around the backs of the ears, nape of the neck. Deep into those collarbones. Deep breaths into the belly. Shoulders are relaxed, so if you're finding this is a real stretch for those arms, you can always bring the arms a little closer down towards the body, the direction of the waist. As you breathe in, exhale back to centre. Well done. We'll release the arms, just bring the elbows close into the body, peel up that extended leg, peel up the bent leg. Hug the knees in towards the chest, nice and gently here. So just adding a little bit of sort of pressure down through the lower back and the pelvis. You can take the hands around the front of each of the legs and then gently rolling out across that lower back and the back of the pelvis. Well done. So, always this is the invitation, is you can pause, you can hover, you can land the legs, you can take your time and rest in between each posture in a way that suits your body. So if you need to take a shavasana or child's pose or whatever you need, you take this opportunity to really listen to your body. And we're going to let the legs just gently drop away. You can still cup the knees in the hands. So there's a little extension there through the arms. Just breathe into the lower back, shoulders releasing. It's very tempting when we're holding on to something with the hands to let the shoulders really get sort of overworked up with this effort. So just a gentle play between holding and supporting the legs. Chin towards the chest. Lower back, really enjoying this space through the lower back and the sacrum. Nice deep breaths. And let the arms extend, be playful into the elbows and the wrists. Well done. Good job. Let's release the hands, take them down by your side. Gently peel up one leg, doesn't matter which one, just extend through the heel. Keep the head nice and central. I'm always turning my head to look at you guys, you don't need to do that. You can bring the heel back down towards the buttock and then extend the other leg. So again, don't worry if your posture, your extension, your leg or whatever doesn't look like mine, that doesn't matter at all. It's not so much the look of it, but the feel of opening up from the sole of the foot all the way down the back of the leg, deep again into this hip joint. Hands can just rest, shoulders can rest. Well done. And do this a number of times, so again with your own breath, your own rhythm. One leg may feel a little bit more reluctant than the other. You may have one really tight hamstring or tightness in the pelvis. It's only in our practice that we can really observe these things that are going on in the body. These samskaras, these habits, like I always go to the right side first, or always cross my leg with the left leg first. It's like we just do these things without realizing. So our practice is our invitation to witness these patterns and dismantle them, because in habit we're not allowing space for spontaneity, creativity or shakti or new energy to arise. So we can break these habits in our practice, we can break them anywhere. Well done. Let's land the feet. Take the feet nice and wide, so there's some space around the inner groins and the hips. Soles of the feet nice and flat towards the mat. You're going to plant the hands now towards the floor and gently pick up around the pelvis and the pelvic floor. Now, you don't need to come high off the floor here, just teasing up the tissues, still keeping my lower back in contact with the floor, but just gently lifting up the pelvis. So just see if you can do that tiny little lift. To aim for that little lift. So you can always feel that drawing in of the navel towards the spine. Exhale. So as you're exhaling all of that breath, you're drawing in the belly button. You're drawing up the pelvis. Now you may want to go a little higher. Only go if this is suitable for you, okay? And this feels good across the lower belly. There's no risk of injuring yourself. You can press up as far as is comfortable. Use the floor for the feet to really bear down towards the floor. So legs are a little bit wider than we would normally do with the feet parallel, because we want to just get that sense of openness in the inner groins and the outside edges of the hips and pelvis. Deep breaths, and you don't need to stay up in that pose. You can roll up, roll down. And again, looking for space. And just slowing it down, especially if you're somebody that likes to get things done. Get to the end. I'm speaking mainly for myself here. But sometimes in our practice, just allowing it to be just as it is. Just time to breathe, time to put things down. Including our habits, our preferences. Well, let's do one more. Chin to chest, nice long spine, and then gently roll down. Let those legs slide, and then give the feet a little wave, okay, nice and loose around the ankle joints. Take the palms onto the upper chest, exhale the elbows nice and wide, and let everything settle. And a nice big exhale may roll through the body. Throw a blanket over you if you're cold, okay, because I'm just letting you know I've got like all kinds of breeze coming through the roof here, so don't get cold, it's not worth it. Deep breaths. Well done. Peel up your legs when you're ready. Tuck the tailbone under by just pressing into the feet, lift the pelvis. Let that lower back just settle. Hopefully it feels a little bit longer, a little bit more spacious than more of the compressed feeling we can sometimes get into the lower pelvis. And then slowly we're going to roll over onto our side. Come up onto all fours. Place your little blanket under your knees if you need a little bit of support. Hands under the shoulders. A little bit of movement here in this tabletop position, so a little shimmy across the hips and pelvis. Sound okay? Can I get a thumbs up? Oh, good. Awesome. It's blowing a gale here. So we're finding that little balance between, sometimes it's quite difficult to explain about the pelvic floor, but there's a kind of a sense of just lifting, a really light tone as we lift and lift and lift. And even when we are in this position of tabletop, Parmasana, we can still get that same little lift. It's very subtle. If you were looking at somebody, you couldn't necessarily tell whether they were engaged in their pelvic floor, but what's more important is that you can tell, and it's subtle. It doesn't need to be a kind of a tight clenching. It can be something that you can be really sensitive about and tuned into. So see if you can work with that sense right down in the base, in the pelvis. We're going to shift the weight from side to side. Okay, so just warming up into those wrists. Now you can lift and release the wrists as many times as you need. As we move side to side, you'll start to feel that as well into the glutes, into the hips, and then slowly bring that into some circles. So you can travel the whole of the body forward. You can continue to lift and release through the palms as you spread through the fingers and into the thumb joints. And again, moving slowly, there's no rush with any of this. You may want to take that shape a little further back. There's certainly no correct way to move in an integrated way, which is essentially bringing your body, your breath, your consciousness all into one moment, which is essentially our yoga practice. Whichever posture we're doing, that's the invitation really. And hopefully still feeling into that residue of sort of opening up around the pelvis and maybe into the inner groins from that first initial stretch over the bolster. So you can take the stretches as wide as you need, as long through the body, moving with the breath. Forward and back can feel really spacious, as can side little shifts. You can start to lengthen up through lifting the head, and gathering again the pelvic floor and the muscles of the lower belly, the tissues of the lower belly. Well done. And we'll let everything settle when you're ready. So there's a sense of balance and stillness. Gently tuck under the toes, and we're just going to stretch backwards, dropping the buttocks towards the heels. We're still in contact with the floor. Nice deep breaths. And then shifting that weight forward. Look forward and lengthen. We're going to bear some of the weight through the hands. Bring the chin towards the chest, and then as we round through the spine, we're going to lift the knees. Take this up nice and slowly. You don't need to come to a full extension of downward dog, but we're just shifting some of the weight through the hands. And then as you extend through the legs, think of lifting the pelvis up towards the sky. Keep the heels lifted, head and neck releases. Breathe into the armpits, little finger side of each hand, eyes soft. Let the heels release. Spread across the toes. Gently look forward to the hands. and come all the way down. Well done. Come back to tabletop, tuck under the toes, look forward and lengthen. Well done. We're going to take the hand that's furthest from me and just bring it through to come all the way down, to lay across that arm. Deep breaths. So by staying up on the knees, there should be some space for the belly. But of course, if it's too intense, you can use your hand for support to lift the head, come a little further up. Well done. Come up nice and slowly. Come to sit back on the heels and rest. And just let everything settle. Take any support that you need. If you find this difficult to sit on the heels, take a cushion, folded blanket, a little bit of padding, and just settle. And as the spine settles, just notice if you can feel the two sides of the body. The shoulder blade that has been sort of stretched and released across the body, and the other shoulder blade. And notice what's maintaining the lift up through the spine. Is it the muscles of the back? Is it the muscles of the belly? Is there still an awareness around the pelvic floor? Let's bring the chin towards the chest. Take a deep breath in through the nose. And as you exhale, just travel forward. Again, this may be enough. Just stay in your tabletop position. If this feels good, you can rest here or come back to those little movements. See what the body wants. It's normally very responsive when we listen. And then slowly we're going to release the other arm. Okay, so I'll be turning away from you. So sometimes we extend that arm all the way, but we're going to keep the movements very small this evening. So we're coming underneath and we're going to lay across that shoulder. So come down nice and slowly. Take the support under the head if you need it. Check the breath is flowing. Well done. Use your supporting hand to press to come all the way up. You can come to sit all the way back on the heels if this is comfortable. Draw the legs together this time so thighs are touching, and we're going to interlace our fingers and extend the hands away. Deep breath in. Exhale, raising the arms all the way up and then release the arms wide. And then we're going to gently rest back to the hands on the thighs. Just notice again that center point through the body. Let everything settle. Well done. One last time, chin to chest. Interlace our fingers, palms away. And just pausing there, looking across the fingertips, the backs of the hands. Let the arms come up nice and slowly. So picking up the pelvic floor when the hands are around the chest, drawing the belly in and up. You can keep watching the hands this time, and then let go of that sense of watching the hands when it becomes challenging for the neck joint, for the trapezius muscles. Let the eyes be soft, look forward, and then exhale, release. Nice and wide. Well done. Have a little shake out. Take some extra deep breaths. We're going to fold our blankets in a moment. I made one earlier but then destroyed it, so we're going to make a little roll. I always think of this as more of a Swiss roll, so obviously we all have slightly different blankets. You can roll, it has to generally be wider than your shoulders, so I'm just going to show you the size of this. So we're going to put it under our shoulder blades. So the higher it is, the more of a lift we're going to have. We don't want to be on anything as high as a bolster here, but just a folded blanket. So this again will bring a little openness across the chest. Do grab an extra layer if you're chilly or you want to put your socks on. It's also useful to have something under the back of the head. We're going to come to extend over this little block, which blanket, not block, but you may want a block under your head. So I'm going to give you a couple of options. You may want to start a little higher up with the head, and then as the shoulders start to release, I can demo this first if you like. As the muscles start to release, then you may want to remove some of those props. So have that in mind, that you may want less than you start with, but have them nearby. So we'll take ourselves into that first position like we did with the bolster under the knees, and then we're coming down. We're going to lay with the rolled blanket rather, under the shoulder blades, so the bottom edge of the shoulder blades. Now when you come down, we want to lengthen up and over. So tuck the tailbone down towards the heels. You can use your elbows on your little Swiss roll, and then finding that space, you come to lay across this. Now, I'm starting on quite a high block because this feels good for my back as it is now, which is a little bit tight because of the cold. So you can keep the soles of the feet resting, have the arms out wide, chin to chest. Now, instead of a block, you may want a folded blanket or an extra cushion. So you can start with it a little bit higher, and then gradually you may want to slowly start to release down a little bit lower. Okay, but take your time. I'm just going to check in on you guys and just let me know if anything feels really too strong. It's quite a strong practice because essentially we are opening across the heart space. We're opening up through that middle back, which can get really, really tight. So having that little bit of support under the back of the head. You can extend the arms, palms out. If that feels too open and sort of vulnerable across the chest, of course you can bring the hands a little closer in towards the body. Lots of variations, as always, that suit your body exactly as it is. And you know, this is the beauty of this path, is that we can come to postures again and again, and we'll discover something new. Perhaps about the practice, perhaps about the posture, or perhaps about ourselves. So of course this may be arising as a strong sensation, and we can label these sensations as they arise in consciousness. It's our experience, so there's nothing to negate about that. It's a strong practice. So the question is it something you can breathe into? Is there a surrender or a holding that we can enter into with a sense of trust, of openness, of softness? So if you feel quite comfortable, if things have settled, you're welcome to extend the legs. And again, it may be that we extend the legs and then we retract. We want to bring them back in. that's absolutely fine as well. Little steps forward, little steps back. Eyes can close. You can start to soften into the shoulders, perhaps lower the head. Remove one of the layers if that feels good. Bring the hands to the chest, elbows wide. These are all options, and as always, you know, anything here is an option. It's simply a guide, something to explore in practice, and just use what is useful and leave the rest. So if you're in full extension through the top of the body, keeping the chin towards the chest where possible, just notice if there is still an awareness around the pelvic floor. Is there a softening around the pelvis, around the belly? When you're ready, you can peel up your legs, come back to that first position. Bring the arms close in towards the body. And then I find that using the elbows firmly into your little lift, shift the pelvis to one side and then roll away from the pelvis, firmly to come all the way up. And then extend those legs, shift the pelvis, buttock flesh, come to an upright position and just settle. Nice long spine. So we come to Dandasana. So legs are extended. And notice there will be sensations, residual sensations through the spine as we release and shift this energy through the back of the body. Well done. Won't stay there too long. We'll do a little forward fold back over our bolster that we started with. So you may want to bring that or your pillows under your knees and gently create that little tip forward. So lifting the buttock flesh out and back, gently folding over the legs so the spine has a chance to soften. And you may want that extra little bit of padding, so you can unroll your blanket or you can keep it in a roll. It depends how forgiving it is. Under the armpits or wherever's good for you. If you've got an extra pillow, sometimes you can almost create this whole softness, like a giant marshmallow to sort of soften into. And just create some space between the knees so that the chest can relax. Eyes soft, jaw soft. Hands can just rest on the feet or grab for the toes. And as you soften with every breath, you may notice a little sense of surrender through the body, a little bit more space through the spine, length through the spine. Well done. Just breathing into the back ribs with every inhalation, every exhalation. And then coming up nice and slowly when you're ready. And just pausing. You have the support under the knees, you have the support of the pelvis. And this buoyancy from the pelvic floor up through the spine. Deep breaths. Well done. Let's release our legs. Pop the bolster to one side. You may want to give the legs a little shake out or a little energy bath. So take the hands down to the feet, backs of the legs. You bend the knees to get to the calf muscles. A little shake against the earth. Nice deep breath. Really shifting that energy through the body so you can move it down, you can move it back up, across the pelvis, and then the arms. Keep breathing. Head, back of the head. It's a good one for moving stagnant energy. Wonderful. And then, good chance to get yourselves cosy and perhaps another layer. I might put my socks back on. Have a sip of your tea, or if you bought a drink or anything like that. Pop your extra layers on, and then we'll gather our props to come to a comfortable seated position. So hopefully hips and pelvis are a little bit more open and receptive to being seated. I'm going to kneel this evening, and I'll take a sort of bit of support under the knees or the feet. A little bit of extra padding. I've got doubled mats. And that lovely weight across the pelvis, that can be, this is a cotton blanket, it's a little bit heavier than a normal blanket. So that you feel quite contained, you might want something else over your shoulders. Go for it, you know, maximum comfort. And just allow the body to settle. So the same awareness through the pelvis really gives us our grounding in our meditation. Same principles apply in a seated posture across the pelvis. So there is still that wonderful space to lift up, space for the diaphragm. If you wish to, you know, dim the lights or anything like that, have your extra layers. Wonderful. Good job. So, comfortable, seated, upright. So, I thought it'd be lovely to chant from the Brihadaranyaka this evening, which is the Asatoma, which you may know. And this is lead me from untruth to truth, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. So I always feel drawn to this as we come towards winter. And the darkness to light, well, this is something to really ponder and perhaps meditate on in itself, but you can choose whatever resonates with you. There may be a Sanskrit word or the English version, the English translation, whatever resonates. So in other words, there is some knowing on some level, some energetic level, some subtle level that is corresponding, is connecting. And it's much easier to work with that than try to cogitate meaning and anything further work for the mind. We are looking to find some space between those thoughts and peace in the hearts and peace in the grasping after knowledge, etc. And then eventually we just let go of the words and we just rest in that resonance. So that's the invitation whenever we chant together, whenever there is an invitation to meditate, it's simply to rest the awareness, to let all of the instruments, the mind, the heart, the body, the senses, just let everything settle back to stillness. So just coming to rest, finding that balance. We'll start with Om. Deep breath in. Om. Asato ma satgamaya. Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya. Mrityo ma ramritangamaya. Om. Asato ma satgamaya. Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya. Mrityo ma ramritangamaya. Om. Asato ma satgamaya. Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya. Mrityo ma ramritangamaya. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Let the hands rest. Deep breath in. I'll mind the time. Eyes closed, jaw soft. And take an extra deep breath in. And exhale fully. Let 2 more of those deep breaths just arise. Exhale, release. Last time, deep breath in. And release. And when you're ready, just opening your eyes. And we'll come to lie down in Shavasana. So prepare yourselves. So come to lie down. You can take your bolster under your knees, or you can extend the legs fully, which I recommend. You may wish to dim the lights and just allow the body to come to rest. Extending the legs, nice long spine, soft jaw, arms releasing from the sides of the body, palms facing up towards the sky. And then if you've got extra blankets, just place them across the body, particularly the pelvis and the thighs, soft across the belly, space between the feet and ankles so they can release. Good job, nice deep breath. And just checking that the chin is towards the chest, spine is long. Take any extra support that you need in order to completely surrender the body. Come to rest. Eyes resting in their sockets. Tongue releases from the roof of the mouth. Resting in that deep peace of yourself. Resting in the heart space. Resting with the breath. Taking an extra deep breath in and exhale, gently bending up your knees. Allow the lower back to settle. You may wish to hug the knees into the chest or gently roll over onto your side. And slowly start to allow a little light and colour into the eyes. And when you feel ready, you can press gently up from the side to come all the way up. Hands to the heart space. Namaste. Lovely to see you. Here we go. Where are we?
Thank you, that was perfect.
Oh, so well